Hey there everybody, I'm Dave Brooks.
And I'm Jesse Nemitz.
Today we are going to be discussing my top 7 commercial singing secrets. And by that I mean style, your own sense of vocal self, if you will. I've spent over 20 years in this business focusing in on that by being a session vocalist, commercial sessions, and there's a lot, I've learned a lot, but one of the things I've learned the most is that there is absolutely a unique way that everyone delivers a vocal. And we're going to be talking a lot about that today.
Right, because you've got Singing Success, some of our other products that deal with getting you a strong voice and getting the notes there, but that's only half the battle.
Half the battle.
Because singing and delivering to the audience has everything to do with style and delivering and connecting. And that's what all of these things that you're about to say, that's what this is about. So this is going to make you sound good, not just the way you hit your notes, but the way you deliver the song.
And it's going to make you sound like you, and that's the most important part of it. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we?
All right.
All right. We're going to go ahead and start off talking about pocket, Jesse. I think the first session I ever had with you was about pocket and phrasing, actually. But that is crucial in delivering a really, really relevant vocal, an honest vocal. And it is, by the way, the first thing I work with on any client that comes in. Pocket, for those of you who are out there wondering, okay, I think I know what that is. My definition of pocket is where you are in relation to the time signature of the song. Are you rushing? Are you behind? Are you on top of the beat? Where are you? And being able to just to lay back and be comfortable enough, depending upon what the song is asking for, is critical. It's a critical component of a great stylistic interpretation of a song. There are 3 different ways in terms of pocket, 3 different areas we're going to discuss right now: being on top of the beat, being behind the beat, and rushing. The first thing we're going to do, I'm going to rush it. So we're going to go ahead and sing Mary Had a Little Lamb. Why are we doing that? Well, simple. There are no vocal presuppositions based on that song.
Yeah, your favorite singers never sung Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Never.
You can't imitate.
That's correct. You'll be forced to do it your way. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and rush it.
Let's rush it.
Rush it. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. Now, how uncomfortable was that?
Yeah, you were like a whole beat off. Oh my God.
Yeah, the thing is though,
Terrible for me.
right, it's terrible for anyone though, but I'm telling you right now, I have clients that come in here and actually think that they're singing right on and they're not.
Gotta watch that.
Gotta watch that.
Right.
And I'm overdoing it for a reason, to make it painfully obvious to you what that sounds like. Okay, next we're gonna go and I'm gonna sing behind.
All
I'm
right.
gonna start behind. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. Now, a couple things happened there real quick. The very fact that I started late forced me to manipulate my phrasing, which is pretty cool.
It became more interesting.
Became more
immediately.
interesting
Yeah.
all of a sudden.
Easier to play with too.
Absolutely, easier to play with. These are great things, starting behind. And incidentally, real quick, typically ballads, mid-tempos, I have all my clients start slightly behind, stay slightly behind.
Makes you feel like you're more in control.
It sure does.
You're not falling over the song.
Correct.
Like, oh my, I don't really know what I'm doing. It gives the illusion that I got this.
Correct. And it's not always going to be the case, but moreover, you got to start somewhere. And if I was going to have one of my clients start somewhere, it's going to be slightly behind.
All right, now we're going to do dead on.
Dead on, brother.
All right.
Let's increase the tempo, because dead on, the faster the song, the more you want to sing boom, boom, boom.
Driving.
Boom, driving it.
All right.
Driving. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. real simple. Boom, 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 driving songs. Most of you singers out there understand all of these concepts. But it's important because every song brings a different thing to the table. Some are real easy, some are much more expressive and requires a little more vocal intuition.
Right, and if you have a problem with that,
intuition.
One easy way to fix that is to think of, if you're thinking Mary had, would be to think the half that. We subdivide it. So it's Mary had a da-da-da-da-da.
Very good.
Da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And anything that you've got, if you subdivide, especially a slower song, if you're doing Mary had, it's going to be harder to find that beat because there's so long in between.
Right.
If you go Mary had a little.
That's great.
Subdividing will help you stay right on.
Not so surprised by what he told you.
All right, Jesse, the next thing we're going to talk about is phrasing.
My favorite.
I know it is, man. I know it is. We already talked about pocket a little bit. Pocket leads to phrasing. If you understand where you are in the song based on the time signature, you're comfortable with that, then you're comfortable enough to manipulate that phrasing a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a couple different areas of phrasing I want to go over really quick. There's word-to-word phrasing. You can break up a thought process if you want, just based on stylistic interpretation of the song, the way that it was written, word-to-word phrasing. And then there's actual phrasing. By that I mean pushing a phrase away from you, pulling a phrase to you. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that. I want, before we start talking about pushing and pulling phrases, I want to just talk about word-to-word phrasing.
Okay.
A lot of my clients, I'll have them come in and they'll sing a song for me, and a lot of times it's just real staccato, real choppy. So I get them to look at a line or a couple lines and have them look at the line as not as a bunch of words that make up a phrase. So they're not looking at individual words, they're looking at the whole phrase, they're eyeballing the whole phrase. So automatically, it's just, their whole come from is smoother. Right. They're not slicing and dicing everything up.
So I guess I'll give you an example of somebody, and including myself, who used to do this.
Yeah. Singing
word by word by word, because to me singing was different than speech at that time.
Correct.
All right? So
let's do it.
You saw the lies, not so surprised by what he told you. Then left behind a lonely life that he made for you.
Now, what's going on with there? What's going on with that?
Well, I feel like...
What was wrong with that?
Everything? Well, I mean, just...
So
the words felt like I'm not singing them smoothly like I would talk them. If I would say that line, you saw the lies, not so surprised by what he told you.
Right.
It's smoothed out. I would never talk like, you saw the lies, not so surprised by what he told you.
Right.
But that's the biggest thing we hear in people that don't understand phrasing. It's exactly how they sing.
That's right. And guess what that does? When you're choppy, disjointed like that, it takes the swagger and the savvy out of your delivery. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden now, you're not getting through. Right. You're boring. Nobody's going to really take you seriously.
And it doesn't communicate well.
Absolutely. Man, you took the words right out of my mouth. I love it when you do that. It's awesome, brother. Communication, absolutely.
Yeah.
Flowing from word to word, not being... We want to sing consonant to consonant. It's very important to crunch your consonants, but you don't want to shoot off a consonant. Right. You want to make them float like a train. Stick them together. And so let's go...
Very similar to how we would talk.
Correct.
Not like very similar to how we would talk, but very similar to how we would talk.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
So let's go ahead and do the one that actually gets the delivery right.
Absolutely.
And smooths out that phrasing.
Let's do it.
All right, let's contrast them.
You saw the lies, not so surprised by what he told you. Then left behind a lonely life that he made for you.
All of a sudden, 10 times better. Why? Well, you were connecting everything.
Yeah.
Now, I understood everything you were saying.
Yeah, and I picked out a phrase that said, you saw the lies, not so surprised by what he told you.
Right.
Or that was one. And then left behind a lonely life that he made for you. That was one phrase. And I just picked each one of those phrases that I wanted, connected those words, and then I started a new phrase on purpose.
Now, I want to go ahead and add something real quick to that. We're not saying that you have to hold on to these phrases till you're turning purple. Know when to take a breath. Breath control is really important, knowing when to take a breath. That's going to be based on each individual song you sing or write. They bring different things to the table, stylistic ways you can interpret them.
Yeah, and one of the only ways I was able to do this, because I didn't do this naturally, was I had to break down my songs and say, okay, where do I want the beginnings and ends of my phrases to be?
Right.
And then choose to sing that as one piece, and then the next phrase as one piece.
Right.
So I would actually do that, because I couldn't do that naturally.
Right.
So I had to break it down like that.
Correct. Now, this is what I want to do. This is really cool. We're going to stick with this song, okay? I want to go over, now we've gone from word to word phrasing, how important it is to connect your words, but be smooth in your connection. You don't want to slam them together. You're singing around. Now we're going to go phrasing, but phrase to phrase. Okay, so we're going to do what we've been doing, okay? Word to word, keep that the way it is. Obviously, it's working really well. Now we're going to back up a little bit and take a look at the phrase. So what I want to do now is start out with pushing a phrase away from you.
Okay.
So pushing it means you're going to start late. Okay, so play it, and I want to see how you interpret this.
All right.
Go ahead and start. I want to feel this out here.
All right, I'll put it the next phrase so we can contrast them.
You saw the lies, not so surprised by what he told you. Then left behind a lonely life that he made for you.
Nice. Left behind. Left behind.
Yeah.
Subtle, but man, it works. It works.
Mm-hmm.
Why does it work? Well, a song is an emotional process. It's a progression, and it deserves to have that swagger, that savvy. That it's not just what you're saying; it's how you're painting those pictures. It's how you're saying what you're saying. It's important. Pushing and pulling a phrasing does that for you. And notice we're doing it as phrase to phrase to phrase, not word to word. You can do that with words. Well, that's more advanced. But phrase to phrase, pushing, it's amazing. I work with that every day with my clients.
Instantly adds years onto somebody's vocal ability. Like, wow, you must have been singing for years if you're that comfortable with the line to be able to say, I think I'll do this one a little slower, or I'll rush this one a little bit.
Absolutely. There's
really
a conversation to that lyric that, you wouldn't otherwise have.
Right.
No doubt about it.
So there's one more.
There's pulling a phrase to you.
Right.
So you're going to actually start before the down.
All right.
So let's
we'll
go ahead
give
and
an example of that.
Yeah.
You saw the lies, not so surprised by what he told you. Then left behind a lonely life that he made for you.
Perfect. Love it. What did it do? Where did you do it?
The second line.
Second line.
Second line.
That's right.
Just to give it some spice and flavor.
That's right.
Yeah.
Left behind. That's great. Perfect. Yeah. Subtle, folks. It's really, really subtle. Really subtle. The little things, in terms of your phrasing, add up. The little things always add up.
And I'll tell you, coming from a person who didn't get this stuff naturally, I didn't hear that stuff before. So now that you've got 3 examples, if you weren't listening to this kind of stuff before, you got to rewind this thing, go back and listen to that subtlety, and then you start listening to the radio differently. And you're like, oh, I hear that. And it changes everything.
But the perception, most people that I find come in here, they'll come in here and they'll get the technical advice that they so rightly deserve, okay? They build that good technical base. After that's done, the whole concept of stylizing, lyrical interpretation, improvisation, all these wonderful things that you add on, the other half of the equation, it's more the right brain side of the equation, technical being the left brain. Equally as important, folks, it really, really is. Don't discount it. Don't do it. It makes a difference between a good vocal and an epic vocal.
And far too many people have actually made entire careers without knowing anything about technical singing and just getting a natural feel for this stylistic stuff, and they've never had to worry about the technique.
I know.
Not that you shouldn't,
no.
but you can get much further knowing this stuff than just hitting strong high notes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. People put on technical clinics all the time, and it's good, but it doesn't move me.
Right. So this is the nuts and the bolts. This is the real stuff.
Rock on, brother.
All right.
Behind the lonely life that he made for you.
All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is lyrical interpretation. Man, this is one of my most favorite style elements to coach. It really is. Because you don't have to have the highest voice or the loudest, the strongest voice. It's more in terms of your control. Now, we use compression, which is key for this particular topic, lyrical interpretation. The use of breathy tones, going from breathy to edgy, okay, which is volume, edging it out. Falsetto, straight tones, glottal stops, glottal flips, graces, trill downs, all kinds of fun things to do. It's like an arsenal of style weaponry you have.
Palette of colors to paint
Absolutely,
your song
man.
with.
It is really, really awesome. But what we're going to do, there are the things that I just characterized, these elements or trade secrets, style secrets that I just characterized, the falsetto, the straight tones, the use of vibrato, we can talk about that. All of these things I'm going to have you sing, and we're going to talk a little bit about the breathy tone to edge, okay? Now, I already know what you're going to do, so I already know you're going to do breathy to edge. I already know you're getting ready to do, as we get into it, some falsetto, okay? Straight tones, you do that anyway. Into vibrato, you're already going to do that. I want you guys at home to pay real close attention to what Jesse's getting ready to do. And then we'll break it down a little bit here and kind of explain what you did.
All right.
Lyrical interpretation, tell the story, paint great pictures. It's not enough to sing the words, Jesse. You want to sing what the words mean.
All right.
Paint good pictures.
Saw the lies, not so surprised by what he told you. Then left behind the lonely life that he made for you. But he was fine with your goodbye. Another game played to perfection. Just one more rose for his collection.
Awesome. What did you do in there? You did everything I just said. Plus, here's what you did. Here's what he did, folks. The use of breathy tone. Very beginning, breath. But it was a controlled breath. It was a compressed breath.
Versus,
You saw the light.
Correct.
You saw the light.
Right.
it was
Compressed. You can
compressed, yeah.
compress air just as you can compress, just as easily as you can compress tone. You just bring up the level or bring them down, whatever you're doing. Yep, exactly. Easy stuff. Now look, for those of you guys watching, you're thinking, well, how do I get this? Easy, easy, easy. What you do, if you've not already taken a session here, get online. Take a look at what we're doing. It's real simple. Rewind, fast forward. Rewind, rewind. Man,
because you're not going to hear it all in one take.
you're not going to hear it all in one take.
That's the beauty of a good vocal is you get inundated with all of these things at once, and you can't get it the first time, so you have to listen to it again.
No, and there's, look, let's get honest here. There are people that are going to be watching this that already do this, and that's good. Good for you. Keep on moving, keep on trucking, keep on progressing.
Now you got something to point at. You say, oh, I'm doing this, good, now I'm going to do it on purpose.
And there are a lot of people out there that are doing it, but they don't know they're doing it.
Yeah.
They don't know how to characterize it. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. You can know a lot about something, not ever do anything about it. So
we had variation of tone quality.
Variation of tone quality. We had, you were doing, what I loved about what you did was you went from straight tone into vibrato. Saw the lies and no disguise what he told you. Little vibrato on the end, little wiggle on the end. Perfect. As you got into your lyric, into the song, you started leaning in on tone more, edging it out more. Why did you do that? Well, because it's an emotional progression. You want your tone to be to signify that emotional progression. You want your tone to characterize that.
Right.
So you became more anxious. You had your voice had angst to it, a sense of urgency, and that's what that crunching, that compression, that I know this guy, what he told you. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
so good.
That's actually the meaning of the song. Is you've got a friend that's in a bad relationship, and you're desperately trying to get her to understand that this is a bad thing.
Correct.
And so there is that desperation there.
Absolutely.
And that intensity. It needs to be there because of the lyrical interpretation.
The great thing about this, and we'll kind of end on this, we coach this from a technique perspective first, just to get you in there, to feel how good it feels to compress and transition through those breaks, and edge your tone out, keep it all real right up front, forward, edgy, and a lot of that technique you can apply to style. It's amazing how that works. The hand in hand. Mm-hmm. I'm loving this, man.
Yeah, because you get a lot of people who can sing really good style, but maybe it's the tone qualities that they don't really have a handle on. So they sing in one dimension the whole time.
Right, or they're flipping.
It's really good, but it's just one tone quality.
Right, or yeah, and they're flipping into falsetto when the song actually calls for a good edgy mix.
Right. So there's a limitation there,
right.
And that's what technique will do. It'll get rid of the limitations so that you can really just do whatever you want.
Lyrical interpretation, folks. The use of breathy tones, the use of straight tones, the use of vibrato, the use of trills, the use of falsetto, graces, note bends, glottal stops. All these things are...
and sometimes letting the words dictate, like you left behind. Since you left behind, you say maybe put that word a little bit more behind.
Right.
Having the word, and if it's a word that's onomatopoeia, smack dab in the middle of if you have something like that, you would sing it that way.
Correct. You're just painting good pictures. You're characterizing, vocally, tonally characterizing the lyric.
That's great stuff, man. Stuff I never thought about before.
A lot of
but
people
now
don't.
I have to.
It's amazing. Oh, man, you do really well, bro. Really well. Okay, let's roll right into melodic variations. Varying your melody, changing your melody. All my clients that come in ask me, Dave, when is the best time to do that? And I typically say, after the first chorus. Set that verse template, set the chorus template, set it in stone so people can grab onto it. Then when you manipulate that melody, and you don't go out of your way to manipulate it by taking chunks of phrases or 2 lines of a 4-line verse and changing that, no. Maybe a couple words, maybe 1 word that has 3 different notes attached to it. You manipulate that. There's all kinds of ways, and it's going to be song specific. Song specific. You want to sing for that song, and that's it's magic, man. So let's just jump right into this. Play your song again.
Okay.
And first verse, okay. Then we'll go right to the second verse.
All right.
We won't get into choruses right now. First verse, because verses, folks, is where you get people. That's what you start a song out with. If you're not grabbing somebody in a verse, you're in trouble. That's where you paint your pictures, really. Choruses are nothing more than a summary of the verses. They tie everything up in a nice little bow. And so go ahead. Let's go ahead and do a verse. First verse, and then go right to the second verse, and we'll kind of show them how you build this.
All right.
You saw the lies, not so surprised by what he told you. Then left behind a lonely life that he made for you. But he was fine with your goodbye. Another game played to perfection. Just 1 more rose for his collection.
Here's the next verse.
The daily fears, the nights of tears were all he gave you. He made it all seem like your fault, almost convinced you. And you could see that he was deep inside another secret garden, some other place to plant your seed in.
Now, great. Well, you're doing a lot of things right. A lot of things right. Your tone was great. You had a sense of urgency to your voice. You were compressing, painting good pictures tonally. But there was something missing.
Yeah.
Something missing. Let's go ahead and show them what was missing.
All right. So jump in that first verse right to the second verse. All right.
Yep. Pay attention to what he's going to do, folks. He's going to mess with this a little bit.
You saw the lies, not so surprised by what he told you. Then left behind a lonely life that he made for you. And he was fine with your goodbye. Another game played to perfection. Just one more rose for his collection.
Second verse. Here we go.
The daily fears and nights of tears were all he gave you. He made it all seem like your fault, almost convinced you. But he would see that he was deep inside another sacred garden, some other place to plant his seed in.
Nice. Man, there were so many cool moments there. First verse, totally the same. Now, you did spice up a little bit in just terms of your crunching and everything, but because you were just getting into it. But that second verse is poignant. Explain. I can explain, but I think it would be better if you explained exactly where you changed things.
Right. Oh, a little bit of pushing and pulling the phrase, like, the fears and nights of tears were all he gave you, that kind of stuff.
Correct.
Laying back a little bit, pushing it a little bit, and then the melodic variations.
Yes, here we go.
Come in. Inside another secret garden, some other place to plant his seed in.
Nice.
That
And
kind of stuff.
That stuff and...
Yeah, he made it all seem like your fault. That's the first time the way I did it. What about he made it all seem like your fault? That kind of stuff. Just
by
little
the way, that's my favorite part of that song. It is, dude. It's awesome, man.
That's cool. That his favorite part of the song was a simple melodic variation.
It was.
That kind of stuff. Those little things will stick out to people.
That's right. It gives you a swagger. Here we go again. Here's that word. Swagger, savvy, sexy.
Mm-hmm.
Use that. Delivery. You know, and what we're doing is building, folks. We are taking these style elements and these trade secrets and we're building. And the great thing about building is that you build at your own pace. You take all of these things, which by the way will be discussed in length in our CD. You'll love the CD, folks. You'll love it. It goes into greater depth and allows you the comfort to appeal to your own learning curve. Take your time. Build. Certain style elements and aspects will make sense to you right away. Others won't. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. Take it slow. Take it easy. Compartmentalize, get something, and then build on that. It's amazing how this really works.
Yeah, and you can always rewind these examples and hear how each stylistic nuance affects the sound of the vocal. And then certain styles of music, like you said earlier, R&B and pop, will call for certain things more than others.
Correct.
Like the style I'm singing calls for more tonal variation
than
maybe the first verse of an R&B track.
Correct, it sure does.
So you're gonna lean on different things, but you get this kind of thing will allow you to start hearing those in a commercial vocal and say, oh, Katy Perry, she uses a lot of tonal variation.
Yeah, and you know what?
You can hear these.
It's important to know, just not get lost in the overall performance, to be able to pick certain things out, because once you start realizing what those things are, then you can start putting them into what you're doing.
Right.
If it's lost in translation because you're just listening to the overall song, you're never going to really understand.
Right. And when the understanding gives you control as an artist.
Absolutely, man.
Artistic control.
Just one more rose for his collection.
Okay. Let's move on to licks, trills, and runs. This, by far, is the most sought-after style element my clients ask me for. They go right for this especially pop R&B singers. They like to go right for the trills and the licks, and that's all good, you know. Except you can lick trill and run your way right out of a vocal. You can. It's real easy if you're not careful.
Pros do it too.
Yes,
It gets
absolutely.
bad.
We're not going to mention any names here, obviously, but there are people that are on the radio right now that way over sing songs. What I mean by that is they just lick, trill, and run it to death, you know?
Tend to do it more live than in the studio because the producer won't let them get away with it in the studio.
Right. Licks, trills, and runs, folks, are the proverbial icing on the cake. And you can always have too much icing, and you know what that tastes like when you have too much icing. Sing for the song, folks. You'll never go wrong. Stylistically speaking, especially if it's more of a pop vein, but even in country, man. I'm coaching a young lady right now who is way traditional country, and her trills are amazing, but she uses them too much. And she starts out, and we'll go right here because this is the first thing I always coach. Let's dumb it down first. Rely on your ability to phrase well, to color your lyrics well, to paint really good pictures before you start getting into all these licks and these trills. Save those things for later in a tune, especially a pop or a pop R&B tune. Make them wait for it. If you start right off the bat, you're in trouble.
You're giving them everything at once.
You got nowhere to go.
Nothing saved up for them.
Nowhere to go. So here's what we're going to do really quick. Mary Had a Little Lamb. We're going to go back to that. And I'm going to sing a couple different versions of this song real quick. One's going to be with nothing, no trills, no nothing. I'll color, tonally do some things, maybe do some phrasing things that we've discussed earlier. But I'm not going to lick or trill it or run it at all if I can help it.
All right. Clean it up.
Clean
Vanilla,
it up.
man.
This is hard to do, man. This is not easy to do.
For me, it is.
Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. Simple. It was, I don't think it was that bad. Was it bad?
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
It was boring though, wasn't it?
Kind of boring, yeah.
Yeah.
Slow
Wasn't a whole
tempo,
lot
nothing
of
really going on.
Nah, I mean, I colored some words and some phrasing. They were using some phrasing, pushing and pulling of some phrasing. It was interesting. But it just
Could
wasn't
use something.
some flair. Maybe a few licks and some trills.
Maybe.
Let's
try them.
try that.
All right.
All right. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. What did I do? I don't know what I just did. Let me think about this for a second. Okay, here's what I did. Perfect I sung right for the song. I did not try to overdo it. And you'll notice most of the things that I did, licks and the trills, came at the end, 3/4 of the way through or at the end of my phrases. I wanted to bleed in there, get my tone right, paint good pictures tonally, and then spice it up a little bit, emotionalize a little more. And by the way, licks, trills, and runs are nothing more, in my opinion, as a coach and what I've been teaching, I characterize it as an emotional reaction to what you're already doing.
Okay.
You're just flipping around in there, and it's just extra sense of emotion or a reaction, or you were talking to your friend and you said something to them really poignant, and you got done and you went, yeah. Kind of like that.
And in that way, it's more like when you begin a phrase and sometimes add a at the beginning. You don't want to the whole time. It's got its place. Same thing with a vibrato.
Right.
You could use that towards the end of a phrase, but you wouldn't. Mary.
Yeah, totally legitimize it.
Yeah, I get you there.
Yeah, and so, folks, it's going to be different for everybody. I don't expect anyone watching this or listening to this to sing it the way I would sing it. That's just, you wouldn't do that anyway.
Right.
You guys out there, you're not me. You wouldn't do it the way I would do it. But then again, I'm not you. I wouldn't do it the way you do it. The way we do what we do is what it is, and it's a beautiful thing, man. But there are certain aspects and elements to licks, trills, and runs, little trill downs. Down, down, little glottal. Trill ups. Down, down. Little things. Down. Easy. Easy stuff.
But I can handle that stuff.
Absolutely you can, and so can you. They're not hard to do. You just break them down, you compartmentalize them. On our CD, we go over this in more depth. But don't ever make the mistake of thinking that licks, trills, and runs make a song. They don't.
No.
They do not.
Let's prove it. All right.
Let's prove it.
All right.
Okay, here's what I'm going to do now. The best that I can, I'm going to overdo it. And
Both of us. We're both going to overdo it.
Yeah, we're going to overdo it a little bit, both of us. And I'm going to show you what a ego-centered, bombastic, ridiculous interpretation of licks, trills, and runs. I'm going to lick, trill, and run my way out of this tune.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
All right, dude. Let's hear it.
All right. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Oh, Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow, whose fleece was white as snow, whose fleece was white as snow. Unflippin' ridiculous.
If you like
And you know
that, you're out of control if you like that.
And guess what happened? I was so out of control. This is actually really good for you guys, as embarrassing as that was. You got lost.
Yeah.
Because I was going off.
It's like, can we tag this half to
Yeah,
now? What are we doing?
I was looking at Jeremy. Jeremy looked up. I was like, no, we're just going to keep going. We're just going to keep going. Because it proves a valuable point.
Yeah.
If you're out of control and doing your own thing, and you're up there doing this, and it all, singing like that is nothing more than just pure ego, man. Yeah. And it'll ruin you every time.
And I didn't even know where you wanted to end. I was like, well, he's keep on licking, so I guess he wants to keep going. It's like, wow.
It's like the whole national anthem thing. You go to a hockey game or a baseball or football game or whatever, and the person getting up singing the national anthem completely ruins it by using it as a platform to show off.
Yeah.
And they're showcasing their voice. And you know what? Nothing burns me more than somebody that does that with the national anthem. It's supposed to be heartfelt but respectful. And that's the way you want to approach any song you sing. Licks, trills, and runs, for the most part, should be one of the last things you add to any song you sing, especially pop R&B tunes. Now, there are songs and certain genres that appeal to the use of that more so than others.
Right.
I want to make that clear right now. R&B, hip-hop, soul, those genres appeal a lot more heavily to the licks and the trills, and it's more of a motif. Vocal motif than anything else. So, but for the most part, I would say at least wait to the second verse, second chorus before you really start getting into it.
I like what you said that, because you probably want to pad out your song with more interesting things and leave the licks out when you're planning the stuff out.
Yeah.
That way you're very, very interesting as is.
As is.
And then the licks come in and kind of just add a little here and there. If your entire stylistic nuance is based on singing one tone quality and just putting licks to try to be interesting,
you're done.
You're done.
You're done.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Strip it down. Force yourself to be creative. Force yourself to be interesting by tone variations, by manipulating the melody, by, just painting great pictures, use of falsetto, straight tones, all these wonderful things that you already have to use. And then make the licks and trills and the runs, put them in just the appropriate places.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
Far more effective that
Far
way.
more effective. Okay, man, let's talk about tonal variations a little bit. How important is that in terms of coloring your lyric? And we discuss this, and I touch this all the time with clients every day here. It goes hand in hand, and it directly affects lyrical interpretation. I mean, it's a part of lyrical interpretation.
Right, which is why you discuss it during lyrical interpretation.
Correct.
But we're going to get into the details.
Absolutely. Now. We're going to it's almost technical, if you will, what you're doing, but it serves an amazing stylistic purpose. It does. So, show these people what you mean, what we mean, by manipulating your tone. Right. How important that is to a lyric and interpreting a lyric and being conversational.
Okay, well, let's give them the example then. I'll do one that doesn't have very much tonal variation at all, but it still sound good, and then we'll add the tonal variations and all the different qualities to show the difference, all right? This will be the second verse of that song we were doing earlier.
Okay.
Give a little more context
Very cool.
there.
The daily fears, the nights of tears were all he gave you. Seemed like your fault, almost convinced you. But you could see that he was deep inside another secret garden, some other place to plant his seed in.
Nice. You know what? That wasn't bad, bro.
Yeah.
I know you were holding back.
Yeah.
But guess what? And this is such a great, and I do this so much, and I know you do with your clients. Force someone to dumb it down so you can build. You build it back up.
Right.
Because chances are they're going to walk in there doing all kinds of things that they don't need to be doing, or walk in not doing anything at all, nothing. So, pleasant, there was emotion, because I can hear the compression in your voice.
Yeah, had a little bit left in there.
Yeah, a little bit left in there. But now let's make this a little more interesting.
Yeah, so whereas before I was just one dimension to the
one
tone
dimension
quality.
tone quality.
Even the falsetto switch kind of had the same tone
Pretty
quality
much,
as the rest of the chest voice there. So here's me doing some other things in there.
Very cool.
The daily fears and nights of tears were all he gave you. He made it all seem like your fault, almost convinced you. But you could see that he was deep inside another secret garden, some other place to plant his seed in.
Nice. Dude, that was awesome.
Got more going on now.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, all he did, he didn't change, he kept compressing. There's no doubt about that. Jesse was compressing the whole way through. But what he did is he leaned on that compression at times and push more air through to create more edge, get louder, but with more edge. You don't want to get louder and flatten out. You want to get louder and edge out, which is exactly what he was doing. At the beginning, you started more breathy, right? You built it. Why? Because I've heard this track, and the track's building. You want to sing, you sing for the song, folks. Sing for the song, you'll never go wrong. It's going to tell you lyrically and instrumentally exactly what it deserves to have to be epic.
Right.
And we just proved that.
Towards the end of that verse, we go into a banging chorus.
Man, and it is banging.
So you got to have that setup. That's why you take that high note. Maybe the first time did it falsetto. This time, take it in that, more of that chest mixture.
Absolutely, man. Appeal to that. Absolutely. And let me make this point. There are different degrees of chest voice, There's your light, moderate, heavy chest voice. Just like there's a light, moderate, heavy mix. Okay? You are appealing to all that in there. In terms of technique, technique, what we teach here, it has everything to do with varying your tone. Don't be afraid to edge your chest voice out. You don't have to just edge it out when you get up to your transitional notes. You're like, okay, now it's time for a compression.
Right.
You edge it out right from the very beginning.
That's what I did.
Daily fears, nights of tears, all he gave you.
There's a cry to his voice.
It's a low note.
But you could have done, all he gave you, all he gave you, all he gave you. Love it, man.
That gives it that bite that it needs to stand out in the track.
Absolute. Unbelievable. Tone variation, manipulation will do wonders for your vocal. And even if you never put a lick or trill or run in it, people are going to love what you do. Remember, licks, trills are icing on the cake. This, what we just did, is part of the meat and potatoes of your song.
Yeah.
I promise you.
That's part of sounding good.
Absolutely. Okay, folks. I want to leave you with one more thing here. This is last, but it's certainly not least. It's going to take everything we've learned today and help you understand or assist you in understanding how important it is to include these characteristics, these aspects, these style elements to every song you sing, every vocal you perform. Make the song uniquely yours. Be yourself. Allow yourself to be inspired by what other people are doing, but not taken over. You can very easily lose yourself in another artist or artist by living vicariously through them so deep, on such a deep level, that you're just completely giving your vocal power away. Have the presence. You want to sing with passion, you want to sing with reason. Sing with passion, absolutely, but have enough reason to know when you're doing things that are outside your present abilities. Ego. That'll kill you. Don't appeal to it. Leave it at the door. The biggest weapon you have as a vocalist, as a communicator, is transparency, honesty. Transparency, honesty, vulnerability. Those are the biggest weapons you have as a vocalist, as an entertainer, as a songwriter, performer, recording artist. And the confidence to get up there and allow others to see right through you. Right through you. That's real communication. All the licks, all the trills, all the runs, all the melodic manipulations, tonal variations, everything we've talked about. All that stuff is amazing stuff. Amazing style points. They're amazing. But that one ingredient that ties all of this together, one ingredient, is your vulnerability, your transparency. Risk. Share. Risk precedes greatness. Step outside of your comfort zones, folks. Step outside of your comfort zone. When you do that, you're going to step right up into the face of perceived judgment. What I mean by that is, no one is judging you nearly as harshly as you think they are. We beat ourselves up much more than anyone else could possibly beat us up. Risk. Be vulnerable. Be transparent. Communicate. Be honest. Everything we've discussed in this series is going to be put to good use. But you tie all this up and you put it to good use. You do that by leaving that ego alone. Leave it alone. Make the song uniquely yours. Okay, folks, I want to leave you with this. Everything that we've talked about in this series, all these style secrets, these trade industry secrets we've talked about today, the great thing about all of that is that you don't have to use them all at once. Pick and choose the things that make the sense to you. Just don't go down the list and go, well, that's the order, that's what he said to do it. No. Pick and choose what makes sense to you, and then start building. Start putting those pieces of the puzzle together. It will work. It does work. It can work. It will work for you. But do it the way you would do it. That's the key. Make it uniquely you.
Excellent. And I'll speak to, for gifted singers might kind of look at this stuff, well, I don't need this stuff. I already sound good. I just want to hit high notes.
Right.
I would challenge you that there is 100,000 of you guys out there that just have a natural knack for singing, and this stuff will set you apart from the other people who can lick and trill just as fast as you.
Correct.
And who can sing nice like you can. This stuff is what sets the amateurs from the pros. Now, to also speak to the people who don't have naturally great gifted voices like myself. I had to learn a lot of this stuff because I didn't didn't even understand how to make good sound. It's like, this is the stuff that you can pick and choose and say, oh, well, maybe I'm not good at lick and trilling, but I can understand melodic variation. I can understand compression and tone quality and getting different things. As a person who's not perfect at singing from the get-go, this is magic for your voice. This gives you an edge against the other singers who already had a knack for it, but maybe aren't as dedicated at their craft as you are. And you'll find a lot of stars, a lot of professional artists don't have naturally perfect, great voices, but know these things and get ahead because of that.
Correct. It's an art. It's a craft. Hone your craft.
Excellent.
Hone it. Absolutely hone it.